Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Arjan Gill. I am 18 years old. I'll be 19 next year, so I'm pretty young. I was born in California. My mom was there at the time, but my family, like my dad and my brother, were in India. So a couple months in USA, so I clearly don't remember that stuff, but then I moved to India, and then I lived there for 11 years. My dad was in the Indian Army, so we moved every 2 years around. So I was pretty good with people because I had to make new friends every 2 years, which is kind of tough, but that's okay. And then came to USA for a year, lived in North Carolina. It was kind of a cool experience, kind of got used to the Western ways. And then moved to Canada, Lethbridge, Alberta, out of all places. My dad bought a liquor store that he ran. So I went to Gilbert Patterson for a year, and then I went to LCI. Played basketball there, volleyball, started in grade 9. Basketball pretty much was my life. I had a little rule, it was no girlfriends during basketball season, so that was pretty much the whole year. So, and then that was pretty much my life. I mean, I had a pretty simple life. I love my family, no hardships at that point. I mean, I had the perfect parents, and so I had no idea what I was going to talk about. But then you suggested that we should talk about our dreams, and to be more specific, our greatest dreams and what motivates them. So if you asked me to give this speech about a year ago, I would be a psych major at the college, and I'd be in love with basketball, and I'd be training every day to play basketball. Which was good back then, but it was just kind of, it was Lethbridge. I wanted to move out. I wanted to move away. So I spent a semester here at Lethbridge College, and then decided to move to Edmonton, to King's University College, to play basketball. This was a tough decision because people didn't really support it, moving away from home. They didn't support the decision, but my parents did support me. And this was a huge risk for me. And that's a really important word in my life, risk, because that's why I had a lot of respect for Braden after yesterday's story, because you took that risk to come to this program and be more social. And I think risk is what separates people from having a complacent life and having a successful life that they really, truly enjoy. And so I decided to take the risk, pack my bags, move to Edmonton, and it was a 5-hour long drive, and it was horrible, but got there. I unpacked, and then I laid in bed, and at that moment I kind of felt that something was wrong. It just didn't feel right to me. And I had been there before during the summer, and it felt good, but the moment I got there, I was just missing my parents horribly, and it just didn't feel right. So I went through the days, and slowly I realized that I was only getting like 2 hours of sleep at night. So I would make it up during the day in spares by going to my room and sleeping. And the worst part about it was basketball wasn't making it better. I couldn't clear my mind like I used to through sports, and I mean, it was hard, but I knew I could always go back home. So I was going back home 5 hours every weekend to see my family, to keep myself happy. So through this time, I started watching movies. I did watch movies before. I had a DSLR camera and everything, but I never took it seriously. So I started watching movies, and I got really, into it. And I was kind of amazed by all the characters and how a movie can just have so much effect on people. But what amazed me even more was how the person behind the camera controls so many things that a viewer sees. And it makes a person feel a certain way, which was just amazing. So I kind of decided that I wanted to see what was happening behind the screen. So I started using the nights that I couldn't sleep to do research. And so I would get on the internet, just start researching, and I would research all night. And I would watch videos, I'd read stuff on how things happen, shutter speed, everything. And then soon I realized that there was a filmmaking class in that university. It was just a class, and I started talking to those people, and I realized that I began to know more than they did within 2 months of research. And that was only because I spent so many hours of the day just researching. So the day came a month away from the end of the semester, and the coach asked me if I was going to be coming back the next year. And that's when I decided to step away from sports. They were holding me back, and I felt like they were wasting my time. Although I was only 17 at that time, I just decided that was it. I had to stop. And that night I went back home, and I love the movie Drive, Ryan Gosling. It's a great movie. And I have a personal connection to that movie because that night I was watching that movie, and then I realized what my dream is. And it sounds a little out there maybe to some people, but I want to be the best and the most well-known filmmaker Alberta has ever seen. And I have no idea if I'll achieve this dream, but I want to give it all I have. And even if I don't achieve it, I know I'll be happier than I was when I first got to Edmonton. So this was a big change for me. I went from thinking about sports to thinking about filmmaking. I went from thinking about girls to thinking about camera angles. And that was definitely a risk. Well, going to Edmonton and all that, to me, was a risk that paid off. And maybe Edmonton's like a place for bad thoughts, because I just hated that place so much. It was just draining. It was just so spread apart. And it's so cold, and I hate that. So I decided a month later, I moved back to Lethbridge. And since then, I haven't really looked back. I'm slowly working towards my dream. I'm working at the liquor store, probably going to own another one soon, so I have to kind of juggle things. But and I'm glad to admit that I still get butterflies every time I press the record button on camera. And that's the most amazing thing to me. So thank you for listening, and I hope you all achieve your dreams in the next 2 years with me.
Well done.